Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and take a look at the M2 Pro MacBook Pro and see how this particular MacBook holds up in 2025. Now, there's a lot of stuff to kind of keep in mind here within this particular Mac. I, for one, I'm a massive fan of these MacBooks, and the everyday MacBook that I actually use is the model right before this one. So I use an M1 Pro MacBook Pro for literally everything, and I'm in love with this MacBook. I think it's probably one of the best things I've ever bought. The M2 Pro MacBook Pro basically takes that MacBook and takes it a little bit of a step up. So it's a very fast MacBook. It came out a few years ago, but it still is a very fast, powerful Mac. And I would say for an everyday Mac, for people who want, a basic type of MacBook for college student stuff, but if you want to take it up and do very performance heavy stuff, even game on it, all these other things, this is a well-rounded MacBook. It will give you so much capability even though it's a few years old. And even though it's not the latest and greatest, there is still a lot to love within this type of MacBook, which is something that I just think it's really awesome going for this type of Mac. So starting off, if you want to pick up this Mac or some other devices that I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description below. You can get that from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of these Macs, one of the best things about these MacBooks is basically just the way these MacBooks pretty much look. These are very good looking Macs for the most part, right? So they come out in either like a 14-inch size or a 16-inch size almost. So you're getting like very big sized MacBooks inside of both of these. So whichever model you end up choosing, you do have kind of those two different options. So that can be something that's kind of cool right there, just depending on who you are. You might prefer a certain type of, size over the other one. So you do have the choice of basically choosing a different type of MacBook size, depending on how you kind of want to go about it. So that right there, I think is a really nice thing too, as always. Now, on top of that, when you are going through and picking up this MacBook, you have your Apple logo emblem at the front side. So it, looks good. Basically what you'd expect. This type of MacBook too, basically when you're looking at it, it gives you a really big advantage over a lot of other Macs as well. This particular MacBook gives you such good port selection and such good I/O in general. It makes me feel so good about owning a MacBook like this. So this MacBook is giving you basically 3 Thunderbolt ports around the side, so they're all USB-C and they're all Thunderbolt, which is really cool. That means you can dock it up to all those different types of displays, Thunderbolt accessories, anything like that. You basically get 3 of them, and they're Thunderbolt 4 ports, which is just amazing. You also get a little MagSafe port as well. So you have the opportunity of kind of going through and connecting it via that MagSafe port, which that right there is another really cool thing to basically have there as well. So once again, you have that type of capability of kind of connecting into those MagSafe ports, and that right there is going to be another big advantage. Being able to go through and kind of just take advantage of it, and you can even plug in that to charge and then use the other ports for something else. That right there is another really cool thing going on for this type of MacBook as well. Now, when you are kind of going through and using this MacBook, you are getting an HDMI port as well, which that right there is another really cool thing going on for this type of device too, which I actually think is really awesome. But the biggest thing, the reason why I love my MacBook, the ones that have this type of port, it's the SD card. This MacBook having an SD card slot is still, to this day, one of my most favorite things going on for this type of Mac. I think Apple did a really good job with this type of Mac from that selection, and bringing back that port I thought was such a smart thing for them to do. And I definitely do think if you're going to go through and pick up a MacBook, this is without a doubt a really good idea. So in my personal opinion, just from those things in and of itself, I think Apple did a really good job with this type of Mac. And I will still tell you, if you're going to go through and pick up a MacBook, the port selection on this thing is top tier. They did such an excellent job inside of it. And I definitely do think from that side in and of itself, it is for sure worth buying just from the exterior. Like, I'm a massive fan of this MacBook from that particular side, without a doubt. Now, on top of that, when you actually open this thing up, this is when you basically get into your display and you get inside of your other areas of your device too. So the big thing to keep in mind here, number one, is that this type of MacBook still gives you a really good experience with its type of keyboard and with its type of, trackpad. Because this thing doesn't have a touch bar, you don't really have to worry about the trackpad and the touch bar and all that stuff. That was kind of the previous models. Ever since Apple kind of has gone through and changed it up a little bit, they've given us a much better type of experience. So I will tell you from that side, this is without a doubt another really nice thing going on for this type of MacBook as well. The keyboard is a full-size keyboard, tons of travel, Touch ID in the top right, and it definitely still feels like a really good type of MacBook keyboard. And that is, without a doubt, again, another really nice thing going on for this type of device when it comes down to it from that side. So I will tell you, in my personal opinion as well, kind of being able to go through and use this type of Mac from that perspective, that is a really nice thing going on for this type of device when it comes down to it. Now, on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind is the display. The display of these Macs are so good. They come out in either 14-inch size or 16-inch sizes. For my personal use, I do use a 14-inch size one, but these things are so powerful. Like, I love the way these MacBook displays look, and definitely without a doubt, if you're in the market and you're planning on picking up a particular device panel, these types of panels look very, very good. And I do think this is one of the biggest selling points here. They're 120 Hz refresh rates. They look amazing. They feel amazing. So, I will tell you, if you're going through and picking up this type of MacBook, you're definitely going to feel like this type of device is going to be giving you a really good experience there from that particular side. I would also say, though, another very important thing to keep in mind here is the fact that when you're going through and picking up one of these types of MacBooks, the performance of these MacBooks are still going to be very, very good. Like I said before, I think Apple did a really good job with this type of Mac when they first kind of dropped it. And for the most part, kind of going through and picking up these types of devices, Apple, for the most part, they did a really good job with the performance. I mean, within these types of Macs, you can basically go through and get a very powerful type of device. Like, this thing still looks and feels very good. You can get up to a 12-core CPU inside of it, up to 38-core GPU. And I mean, this thing is a very good, it's like a powerhouse basically. So this thing, without a doubt, in my opinion, if you're going to go through and pick it up, I definitely do think Apple did a really good job with the performance of this Mac. Like, it really is that great. Again, is it perfect? Probably not, but I would imagine that if you're going to go through and pick up a device, this thing does a really good job at a majority of things that you're going to throw at it. And I will tell you, from a performance perspective, this thing is insane. And you can get up to 96 gigabytes of RAM inside of this type of Mac. That is a large amount of RAM to have inside of a device like this. And like I said, kind of going through and getting these types of devices, you're definitely going to be able to get very good types of, experiences here. So without a doubt, from that perspective too, you are definitely going to be getting a very fast, very powerful type of Mac from this thing when it comes down to it. So overall, what I can definitely tell you is that these types of Macs, the M2 Pro MacBook Pro is still completely worth buying. This type of MacBook is still so solid. I think Apple did a really tremendous job with this type of Mac. And if you're in the market, I would still highly recommend buying a Mac like this. These things are very, very just so good at performance. And I think if you're in the market, like I said, it definitely does make a lot of sense to go and buy it. Now, maybe it's not necessarily perfect, but I would imagine that if you're going to go through and pick up one of these types of devices, Apple did a really good job with them. And, I definitely do think if you're in the market, these things make a lot of sense to go and buy. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.